was so interesting. I don't know if it felt crazy long to watch or interesting at all, but like actually being in it. Like this is how our mind works. This is how we think in the real world as humans. But then as soon as you get on a set, you turn into actor robots and you forget all about your humanity. Do you want to even kind of mention something along the way in Caitlin's exercise? It's the inspiration, the intuition, and the taste, and the creativity, and all of that, that if you just allow yourself to sit and breathe and take time, it is amazing what comes up without you having to manufacture anything.
Yeah.
That like little serendipitous moment of you finding the other half of the clothespin,
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's what we do. I call it, it's just my phrase, your pool of power. So another thing we're finding in these, when we do this, is what is my pool of power? Like how much power do I have, creativity, whatever other words you want to use, right? And we have to do that in these rooms. And once, because we keep finding it deeper and deeper, and then when we go out to work, we go and we tap to it, and then you know you have it. When you know you have your pool of power, that's called conviction. They say, well, John, you get up and do something great acting right now. Whoa, I don't know, but I know that I have conviction. I know that I have power. I know I have it. That doesn't mean, that doesn't mean I feel great 24/7, no. So this kind of work does that. Sometimes it can almost be embarrassing and think like, geez, I'm so creative, like, wow, I couldn't believe I did that. I think in the early days, I think one has to kind of go through that blushing period. I couldn't, like what happened? Oh, I couldn't believe I went so far in class. And I'm not saying you guys are so young and you're inexperienced, but I mean, anyway, absolutely, right? But it means you have that. You have that. Should have seen your two faces in the middle. I mean, you're common, but like you guys were so open. Did you see how serious and centered and open? And then look at the artistry of it. Then they come to the end and then they're laughing. I thought they were going to kiss at one point. But then they end up with these huge grins. I mean, it's just quite fantastic. And it's a bit unusual. I'm not saying it's phenomenally unusual, but in the beginning, because we're way over here, and I encourage, I coach, whatever, and then slowly, wow, I mean, you go over, and then the whole room, isn't it? You can feel it in the room, right? Yeah.
It's taking the time is very interesting, because even when I would feel that I was taking the time, and I don't know if we think that everything's about us, so we hear. Don't feel the need to do this, and it's just like, was I? And was I doing that? I don't know. And so just taking extra time and but allowing things to just at the moment or where I feel the least like speaking, I would sometimes speak, and then at other times it would just be, now I'm ready or whatever. But it was the times when I felt that I wasn't, the words came out in a very structured way. But when I felt that I was just speaking on the activity or whatever it was, then it felt as though the words were speaking for themselves, more so than me saying them.
I found it's that idea of the thread. It's one of those things that I'm like, I get it. I don't fully get it, but it's kind of there. And then as soon as the scene ended, I was like, shit. I don't know if you were looking at me. I wasn't looking at you.
I was looking at
okay,
you.
great.
Yeah.
Until the very end there.
Yeah.
And I was so absorbed in my own world, yet I could still feel that thread between us and that connection and that shared energy and that shared space. Not in regards to the dialogue or the action or the purpose of the scene or whatever, but just a thread, period.
Yeah.
Which again just reinforces that you don't need to be staring at your partner all the time in order to,
It almost feels like, we're detectives
Mm-hmm.
and we're investigating
Weird.
right, and we're investigating a
Crime scene.
a crime scene, and we're not sitting here going,
Yeah.
where do you think he killed her? Like, you know, we're off doing our own thing. We're looking through evidence or whatever. It's
Yeah.
I just can't believe with the safety pin, I was like, oh my god, is John a genius? Did he plan this from the beginning? Because it was too perfect. And it was like you literally had cracked the case before our eyes, and you were both so happy, and there was this like flirtatious, like, oh, we still got it, like this is what we do together. Like, I was just like, I'll watch the show, I want to eat some popcorn, finally get together in Act 2, like, it was so good. It was so good.
I'm just glad that we investigated some of the stuff before we started, because that's how I knew that when I found that, I was like, this is here. Yeah. This is it. It was the last thing I found in the box. There's
amazing.
nothing else to look at in that box. And there it was.
Witches conjuring magic.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Mm.
I find this so fascinating to watch because you literally get to see, especially when it's something you've never done before or experienced, we get to watch you like unpack your brain in these props and then sometimes pack it back up or whatever, but in a new way. And it's really it's so fascinating because like there's so these things mean so much, like this little design of safety pins, like whether we're putting it on, whether you're putting it on, I think we're all on a very similar plane, but it's just so fascinating because it is like a representation of all how complex we are and how complex our brains are and how we live. But then in this like slow down molasses time where you can like sit in the stickiness of it and you're like, oh yeah, it's just so fascinating.
It also felt like you were in this kind of meditative state, and we're so slowed down that we get to watch every single thought process, even though we don't know what it is. We're like, oh, does that mean this to them? I don't. But and then the way that when the words finally came out, you were like, oh.
I know. Yeah. Time. Amazing.